because at that point, I think there's a little bit more of a legitimate debate. And then it goes, if Benedict Mathurin's on the board, but also Johnny Davis, do you go for more of that wing, that taller guy, that, Benedict Mathurin, that might be more of a sure thing as far as both defensively and also might be a better shooter coming out than Johnny Davis? Or you go get the guy who might be able to improve that shot, get it to a point that's comparable, but defensively, we know exactly who's going to be. It could perhaps be even more stout and even
Right.
improve and get better in that area. What is going on? I want to welcome you from AFCOR for today, June 15th. I'm your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my man, my main squeeze, my guy, Jeff.
Woo!
I afraid Jeff. What it do, baby?
Oh, what it do, man? It's a nice day. It was beautiful. It's like 90 something right now outside. I was going
Oh,
just to walk outside. I was sweating like a dog, but I'm happy to be here. I'm indoors. It's AC. I feel good. We're
yeah.
going to discuss one of my favorite prospects. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, you came in hot, Jeff. We're talking ideas and you're like, man, what if we talk this Johnny Davis guy? And literally right after you said that, I clicked record because I'm like, all right, what is my guy Jeff on about Johnny Davis? Because I've been hearing other people in the Pistons fan base talk about this guy as well. And I know him from Wisconsin. I know that he, like, statistically he was pretty solid, all NCAA type guy, high caliber. But Jeff, what should Pistons fans know about Johnny Davis, and why should they consider him, even though maybe for most of us, he maybe hasn't been in the conversation for five or really up in the top of the draft, or really the names that we've been talking about this entire time?
I think it has to do with a couple things. One being he's not, the athlete of a Benedict Mathurin, a Shane Sharp,
Mm-hmm.
Jay Ivey, these guys. So the athleticism is always going to raise your draft stock. Another part of that is also he's not a very good, at least efficient shooter, but especially from three. Mid range, he's a killer. He can kill you in the mid range.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think he's sneaky athletic. He's a guy that does float under a lot of people's radars, but people forget as well, like he had a Keegan Murray-esque jump where his freshman year to sophomore year, he got significantly better. He put Wisconsin on his shoulders for a majority. He was the number one option night in, night out. And I respect that. Jay Ivey type
Mm-hmm.
of guy, Keegan Murray as well. Like, if you're the number one option every single game and you're still putting up numbers, I get he's inconsistent. And that's kind of where I'm leading into as well. I respect your game. But the
Mm-hmm.
inconsistency is an issue. And I kind of mentioned it to you beforehand. Low percentages. That's something that when you look at a backcourt with Cade, and this is why we love, Jaden or Benedict or any of these guys, is because you see that ability to stretch the floor in the future, and you see like, okay, they can play off ball, they can play with the ball. For this fit to work, Johnny's
Mm-hmm.
gonna have to get better as a 3-point shooter. That's the obvious. Not that he's gonna sit in the corner. No. But he's gonna get open looks in the corner and different points. That we need shooting on this team. So no doubt about that. I just think if you want a guy next to Cade that can go get a bucket. He's handled those responsibilities already, and you don't have to worry as much about Cade. And I talk about this. We talk about this on the videos. You don't want Cade to take on the best guard every night. Like, you want a guy like that who's going to have offensive responsibilities, and he plays well defensively. You don't want to tire him out. So with Johnny Davis, he can take the opposing one or two or whatever it is, the best guard on the team, opposing team, and that's something that's going to benefit them greatly. So with
Yeah.
Johnny, I love it. He's got the size, but I can see why people again wouldn't, comparing him to Benedict and all these other guys. They might rank him a little lower, but someone they got to look at. Absolutely.
Yeah, without a doubt. Before we keep going, keep talking about that, be sure you follow the Jeff and Gentry Show on
Yes.
Twitter at Jeff Gentry Pod. Our guy Jeff Iafredi, as well as our guy Michael Gentry Jr. from Woodward Sports new show. Really hyped about that. Congratulations to my boy Jeff. But about Johnny Davis, I definitely see that defensive upside that you're talking about. I mean, this is a guy that can come in, perhaps of anyone in the backcourt other than, like, Benedict Mathurin, perhaps the best backcourt defender that's going to be available in this draft class. Do you see Marcus Smart type ability with this guy on the defensive end? Do you see Davion Mitchell type defensive ability? I know Davion Mitchell's a little more undersized, but it certainly doesn't seem like it seems like you're gonna certainly be having an off night if Johnny Davis is guarding.
Yeah, and all those guys are fearless. I think that's what he has in common, just fearless. He's going to get India. He's going to get physical. He's going to be a pest. And Mike Schmitz interviewed him, and the first thing he said is I take defense. That's my approach first because. And what do I say? Who are you when your shot's not falling? Johnny Davis is a good example because when his shot's not falling, he's still going to scrap and he's still going to be physical with you and try to get steals, block shots. He's done plenty of times at Wisconsin. So with a guy like that, I like Marcus Smart in terms of what he can do defensively. Because let's be honest, defense when you're playing defense, it's a mindset a lot of the time. Obviously, physical ability matters, but Marcus is a dog, and I think Johnny has those same same outlook on the game. So to your point, I think he can get to that point as well. The question is he going to be an inconsistent shooter like Marcus Smart is a great example. And in your backcourt, I want a bucket. I want a guy who can go out and get a bucket. I think Johnny Davis in the mid range, and people underrate that so much because today's game is a 3-point shot or a layup. That is how it operates. That's analytics. You can think that. But with Johnny Davis, people just overlook his ability. He can just pick his spots. And the other parts of his game kind of get overlooked because you look at, is he an athlete? Can he shoot, the three efficiently? Oh, okay. Well, he was all right. Like, he's getting overlooked, Sean.
Yeah.
He is.
Now, Jeff, he might be getting overlooked, and that's valid. But here's my question to you. Is there a world where if both Keegan Murray and Jaden Ivey are available at the 5th overall pick, as well as Johnny Davis, are you drafting Johnny Davis?
No.
The answer is no. And listen, I like a lot of what this guy has to offer. I'm not saying I don't, and I understand we're overlooking him. But do you see why? Like, do you at least get it?
Because compared to those guys, I think they bring areas of their game that Johnny just doesn't have yet.
Right now, when we're looking at the potential of going and getting a guy like Johnny Davis at number 7, now that's certainly a conversation I would like to have much more. Because at that point, I think there's a little bit more of a legitimate debate. And then it goes, if Benedict Mathurin's on the board, but also Johnny Davis, do you go for more of that wing, that taller guy, that, Benedict Mathurin, that might be more of a sure thing as far as both defensively and also might be a better shooter coming out than Johnny Davis? Or you go get the guy who might be able to improve that shot, get it to a point that's comparable, but defensively, we know exactly who's going to be. It could perhaps be even more stout and even improve and get better in that area.
And also, I got to give him credit as well, because you look at the guards in this draft, and even our own Speakeasy said with Jaden Ivey, his point of him, he can't play off ball. Johnny Davis, and by the way, Jaden can play off ball, just add that. But with Johnny Davis, he can also play off ball, and he's shown that, even though his usage rate at Wisconsin was obviously very high because he was there that dude at Wisconsin, but he's shown the ability to even sit in the corner, make quick cuts. He can play well without the ball. He move well without the ball. So there's games you like about him. But to your point, Sean, I wouldn't take him at 5 if Jaden Ivey and those guys are there, just because, again, and I'm not even going to sit here and say, well, this guy's upside is more than this guy's upside. It's simply Jaden Ivey's bringing things that it's not as common. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you could,
he's just bringing things to the table that Johnny Davis can't, even if he wanted to.
Especially
that's
at 5.
The reality of it. There's levels to this.
Yeah.
Like, that's just where it is. And when I'm looking at Johnny Davis, if you want my honest opinion of where I think he's going to be going in this draft, I think he's someone that we could possibly even have a conversation about of if he's available at 14, because I think that's really where you're looking at with this order. Guys can go quite literally anywhere. Johnny Davis, you can make an argument he could go anywhere in that top 10. You could make a legitimate argument he could go anywhere top 14. You could see crazy cases where he slips out of the lottery. Now, I doubt that's going to happen, but I mean, let's not discount who he is, to your point, because whoever's going to come get this guy is going to be a high value guy. And I see it a lot like a Chris Duarte pick, where people might have been apprehensive to it at the beginning because of certain conceptions that they had because of whether it's their 3-point shooting, or with Chris Duarte, well, why would you draft a guy that old, but then they come into the league and it's like, oh, that was an obviously stupid take to have. This guy's awesome,
Right.
But at the same time, I could very much see Johnny Davis. When I look at Johnny Davis, I kind of get some Jalen Suggs vibes of last year. And, obviously that's not a guy who his story is by no means written. You know what I mean? But I see on the offensive end, I just don't know what Johnny Davis is going to be able to offer when he comes into lead. Now, obviously, like you said, mid-range assassin, all that good stuff. But how much room in Detroit are you going to have to roam in the
Right.
midsection as a guard next to Cade? Because listen, Cade likes to work in the mid-range as well. That's just the reality of it. So, and so do quite a few guys on this roster right now. Jeremy Grant, Sadiq Bey, to name a couple. So that's just going to be the difficulty, in my opinion, with Johnny Davis and a Pistons offense.
And that's a great point too. You need spacing. I think that's probably why I also like Benedict Mathurin maybe slightly lean, just because
Yeah.
he'll excel in that catch and shoot role. He can, just his size and all that stuff. But with Johnny, no doubt he has a dog in him. And I want to address this before we get comments. Oh, Johnny Davis, he had 37 and locked down Jaden Ivey and won on the road at Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take too much into these collegiate games. One thing that game told me is Johnny Davis is a dog.
Yeah.
But because that competitiveness, I get all of that. But when you're looking at the longevity, the entire season, he just was very inconsistent. And you can go look it up, go watch the tape. So that's kind of the issue I have. Like, yes, he played well on the road at Purdue against Jaden Ivey. He outplayed them, they beat them, but just don't buy too much stock into that stuff.
Yeah.
That's all I ask.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It means something, but not a ton.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I really do think we can look too much into those college careers. Now, what does translate, what we can always look at in college, when guys can defend in college, they generally, if they can show that type of defensive stoutness and versatility, that translates. Defense is something that if you are good at the college level, you can come in and be effective at the NBA level for the most part. I mean, obviously, that's not entirely true. Certain guys, in the deep bench of Virginia who could probably play good defensive minutes. They're not defending LeBron, but if you could play pro level, if you could play pro level defense in college, that pro level defense translates. So, that if he comes in and plays high effort basketball, I think he can come in and, you look later in the lottery. I mean, you look at teams like the New Orleans Pelicans. I think they would very much benefit. Imagine having guys like Jose Alvarado and Johnny Davis to be able to bring in alongside Bones Highland. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of things that I look at where it's like, where could a guy like Johnny Davis really go and make a difference for a team that's at the end of that lottery looking to make a run in the playoffs next year? Because we could see that type of run from him.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's a player that if I had to pick where he goes, I think he goes top 12, top 11, whatever it is. But that's why you have to have these discussions when you're talking about the Pistons at 5 or 7, because I hate saying the word reach, but you'd be taking him and you're confident in who he can be. So again, would I be mad if he was taken at 5 or 7? No, but I would be very like, okay, we'll see. See how he projects, and we'll see what Troy Weaver sees in him. But again, that's not a player that when you watch on tape, I don't know how people can compare him to Jaden Ivey or whoever it is, Benedict Mathurin, and just say this guy, especially the fit. It's just it like half of it works, half of it doesn't. The shooting and the spacing of the floor doesn't, but the defense, I'm enamored by. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. Before we go, I don't want to like change the topic of conversation, but I have a question that I don't think we could really do an entire video on. So I want to use the rest of this video and ask you this.
Okay.
What's your big board right now for the Pistons as far as like if we're getting to draft night, what like if we were to put together our big board, what's our top 5? Like let's say, like obviously the top 3. Let's go probably number 1 Jabari Smith Jr. on our big board. I'm going to go out on a limb. Number 2 Chet, number 3 probably Paulo, right? Where do you go from there? What's your big board? What would you say if you were to put together like a top 5, top 6 from half court big board of this draft? What's your top 5, 6 right now? How are you feeling?
Well, Jaden Ivey's in there. You could put him at 4, you could put him at 5, but again, like if you put him at 5, it's really, and people talk about, I don't think it's a top heavy draft, but I think those 3 you're very confident about. After that, it's kind of arguable. You can have debates about it. Personally, I would probably still have Jaden Ivey 4 and maybe even Keegan Murray 5, just because of the what I'm getting. I already know what I'm getting. But again, I love Shaedon Sharpe. I get all that. But in terms of just complete game, like 6'8" wings that can shoot, like it's just, come on, that's a no brainer for me. So it'd probably go Jaden Ivey and Keegan Murray, to be honest. Maybe Benedict Mathurin if you want to swap him and Keegan. I have no problem with that. But that's probably my 5.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fair. And it's interesting because I think that's kind of the if there is a consensus order of this big board, I would say that's probably it. However, I would say that this draft class is very divisive at a lot of
It is.
points. And so especially particularly where the Pistons draft. And so, it's going to be particularly interesting because now we're really looking at, okay, well, we've done the work, we've analyzed these prospects, we know, what potentially they can be, we know potentially, like where they could go, but now it's about what philosophy is Troy Weaver going to select, right? What is he going to do knowing what he's going to be able to select from for Cade Cunningham, right? I mean, obviously the only thing that's gonna leave him any question, and again, he says he's confident in who he'd select. He said that on the day of the lottery. Obviously, things can change. However, I would imagine a lot of the work that teams have been doing now is just confirming what they've already felt. So,
Yeah.
so a lot of teams, are going to be making some, in the coming week, teams are making decisions for the long term prospects of their franchise. Let's not mistake what this draft means. So I just wanted to take a second and look over our big board. Wanted to see if that's where you were still at. That's about what my big board's at. But the question is, what's your big board right now? Where are you at with the draft? Also, what do you think of Johnny Davis as a prospect? Do you think he's someone that should be higher on our big board? Let us know in the comment section down below. But that is going to do it for today. Follow my guy Jeff on Twitter at Jeff Iafrady. Also, again, be sure to follow their pod. We'll be linking that below as well. Also, be sure to follow Sean Halfcourt. But that is going to be doing it, folks. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next time from Halfcourt. Be sure to subscribe and join From Halfcourt memberships, just like Dominique Davis, Justin Jones, and Wade Ballou.
Shout out.